So I'm going to take a look at a couple more Dreamcast first-person shooters, and this time it's going to be Kiss Psycho Circus, Soldier of Fortune, and Half-Life. So first I'm going to look at Kiss Psycho Circus. Now I was thinking back about some of the first-person shooters I played on the Dreamcast, and my eyes lit up when I remembered Kiss Psycho Circus. So this game was originally released on the PC, and it was ported to the Dreamcast, but I never played the PC version, so I can't really compare. Now, I'll be honest, I naturally assumed this game was going to be dog shit. I mean, it's a game based off the band Kiss. That alone makes me want to vomit. And I don't know why this game is so dark and evil. Kiss has pretty weak music actually. I think they mostly do love songs. I mean, the heaviest song I heard them ever do was God of Thunder. Given this presentation, you'd think it would be about a Norwegian black metal band. And I hate to say it, but I actually kind of like this game. The gameplay feels quite a bit like the original Quake and Half-Life. It has a lot of action, I like the level design, and the gameplay is great thanks to the Lithtech engine. Unfortunately, I was unable to play through this entire game because my copy keeps crashing, but this port feels sloppy anyway. I'm just going to look for the PC version. The video I'm showing you, by the way, is of the PC version. I was unable to find Dreamcast footage. The game looks pretty much the same on the Dreamcast, but it doesn't run this good. And like I said, since my copy keeps crashing, I can't tell you everything about the game, but let me tell you what I can assume. It appears you play as 4 characters, each based off the band members. And like how Quake is broken up into 4 episodes, each character has their own levels, so you could say each character has their own episode. When you start the game, you're just wearing street clothes, but as you go through the game, you'll find armor that looks like the Kiss outfits, and it improves your character in some way. Like the boots makes you jump higher, chest armor gives you more stamina. Just think of it as Mega Man X. Something funny about this game is it doesn't appear to use any Kiss music. In fact, it doesn't really seem to have anything to do with Kiss. I'm sure the only reason this game has anything to do with Kiss is to sell a couple more copies, but something tells me that might have backfired. So a problem with this game, and something I naturally assumed would be there, it has no multiplayer feature. Now I don't mind that it doesn't have online play, but it really should have split screen at least. So I only got to the levels of the second character before it started crashing on me, but what I did play I really enjoyed. So with that said, I'm really going to look for the PC version, but I recommend you just go ahead and skip the Dreamcast port. Moving on, now I'm going to look at Soldier of Fortune. This is another game originally released on the PC and ported to the Dreamcast, but once again, I never actually played the PC version. And the first thing I'm going to say is this game has insane load times. Not only are they long, I've never seen my Dreamcast work so hard. My Dreamcast actually began to shake and knock shit over. This alone makes me want to play the PC version. One thing you'll notice from the get-go in this game is the action is fucking intense. The sound effects are awesome and your shots pack some power. This is one of the few games that make taking bullets disturbingly realistic, at least compared to all the other first-person shooters at the time. For example, I actually hit a guy with a shotgun in the chest, and he flew about 6 feet, and as he was flying through the air, a train just happened to come by and just blew him into little pieces. Now that wasn't realistic, but it was pretty fucking awesome. I only played through a few stages, but the levels seem to be pretty straightforward. They have mission objectives and story that occurs in real time. When it comes to the gameplay, I think it's safe to say this game is inspired by Half-Life. Visually, the game looks pretty good. There are large levels and a good amount of detail, and the textures aren't half bad. And the game doesn't look this dark when you're playing on your television. You can actually see. The frame rate in this game is usually pretty good, but in larger levels and when explosions occur, you definitely notice some slowdown and the occasional choppiness. So when it comes to the audio in this game, there's no music in there, but the sound effects are great, and I have no complaints with the voice acting. And unfortunately, this is another first-person shooter on the Dreamcast with no multiplayer feature. So like I said earlier, I didn't get too far into this game, and mostly because I feel like I'm just not getting the best experience of Soldier of Fortune, so I'm just going to go ahead and get the PC version, and recommend you just skip this one as well.
John, you read? Go ahead.
Lastly, I'm going to look at Half-Life, which is another PC game brought to the Dreamcast. Unfortunately, this one got cancelled. But of the 3 games I mentioned, this is one I actually did play on the PC. So the version of Half-Life I have is the one that was leaked onto the internet. And my money says this is a beta release. In fact, here's a quote I read at GameSpot for the hands-on preview of Half-Life. The only problem with the graphics at this point is somewhat longer loading times between areas and the frame rate, which suffers at times. And by the way, to say the frame rate suffers in this game is an understatement. It's really bad. And as you can see from the video here, it looks like it's running good. And the video that's about to play is from the beta release, which runs really crappy. Now let me finish off that quote at GameSpot. However, Sierra assures us that the code hasn't been optimized yet, and the frame rate will scream along and loading times will be short as possible in the final version. Clearly these are things that never made it to the version we see on the internet. And I'm not saying they wouldn't put a bad port on the Dreamcast, but I don't think this is the final game. Getting into the game, I'm going to start with the graphics. The levels appear to look exactly the same, so the good thing is no details were removed. However, the game has blurry textures. A great improvement in this game was on the character models. They are clearly using a lot more polygons and have a lot more detail. On the PC version, they look really strange, almost like Muppets or something. So that was a great change made that was really needed. And like I said, the game suffers from major slowdown that can make the game choppy. In fact, I used the code to go to the last level in this game, which is a big wide open space, and it ran terrible. And also, like mentioned before, the game suffers from very lengthy load times. It seems like every couple of steps it's just gotta load again. And once again, this is a game that features no multiplayer modes. They were originally planning to put online mode, but that was scrapped. So to be fair, this version is playable, but there's just no reason to subject yourself to it. Now let me wrap this up. These are 3 games that could have been great on the Dreamcast, but are all sloppy ports. When it comes to a first-person shooter, 99% of the time, the PC is always the best way to go, but even then, these games are just not living up to the Dreamcast's potential. So that's all the first-person shooters for today. Until next time, you guys take it easy.